Incoming chair of the House Judiciary Committee, Jim Jordan. First time on the show, and what a moment to have you as our guest tonight. We really appreciate it. Let's start with this entity, CISA, this shadowy group. What are we going to do about that? Their whole purpose has shifted from something many Americans might support, which is foreign disinformation, to censoring Americans.
Yeah, this collusion is now bigger. I used to say it was big government, big tech, and big media colluding to keep information from we the people. Now it's big tech, big government, big media, and these NGOs or not-for-profits or whatever this organization is, all designed to run a misinformation operation on us. I mean, you know, remember those 51 folks 51 former intel officials who did that letter, and they said, oh, this the Hunter Biden story has all the earmarks of a classic Russian information operation. Well, the real misinformation operation was run by our government with this group you just talked about, with big media, with big tech, to keep information from us, from the American people, and they did it just days and weeks before the most important election we have, election for President of the United States. So you're exactly right. The government's the primary culprit here. It was a great monologue, but that last point I think is right on target. That's where it really starts. They're the ones who violated our First Amendment free speech rights. They're the ones who need to be held accountable, and we're committed to doing that and going as high up in the FBI as we have to get to the person who decided this is what they were going to do.
Exactly. Let's talk about the FBI. That's most directly in your purview when you take over. I just want to read you a little bit from their statement in response to the Twitter files on Friday, which really had them in the crosshairs, as well as what we did last weekend. Here's what they said. The FBI regularly engages with private sector entities to provide information specific to identified foreign malign influence actors. And that's all. That's a total lie. It is a lie.
Yeah.
We've shown, Matt Taibbi, the Twitter files show that it was domestic. How can you have an agency of the government? I mean, somebody put this out. Someone who works there is like in the communication. They're lying to us, and we're paying for it. What can we do about it?
Well, we're going to talk to everyone that we know that was involved thus far. So we want to talk to this Elvis Chan, who was the guy having the weekly meetings, the guy in the FBI meeting weekly with all these big tech platforms out in Silicon Valley. We want to talk to Timothy Thibault. Timothy Thibault was the guy who, a whistleblower, went to Senator Grassley and said, this was one of the guys in the Washington field office involved in suppressing the Hunter Biden story. We had a different whistleblower come talk to our office and said Timothy Thibault was involved in this whole political nature and this political pressure that's going on at the FBI. So we want to talk to him. He's actually since left the FBI. So we have letters out to all these people. Once we're in the majority and we have the ability to compel them to come testify, we will do that. But that's where we want to start. And then, of course, Jim Baker, who was one on all sides of this equation, Steve. I mean, he was there when they were spying on President Trump's campaign. He's the guy that accepted the information from Hillary Clinton's lawyer, the information on the so-called Alpha Bank scandal, which was baloney. And then he goes to Twitter. And then, of course, 2 weekends ago, we find out that he's the guy actually filtering the information as it's going out the door when Elon Musk is trying to release it. Now, think about this for a second. If he was willing to do that when Elon Musk is running the company, imagine what lengths and things he did when he wasn't worried about all this. So that's how bad it was and how coordinated this effort was. We're going to get to the bottom of it. We're going to start with Chan, Thibault, Jim Baker, and this guy, Matt Williams, who happened to come from the FBI, who was hired at the same time Jim Baker was in the summer of 2020.
We don't have much time. Can I quickly ask you about the action that might flow from this and the connection to what Mitch McConnell has just done in relation to the budget? Because one of your weapons here is the budget. But that's now looks like that's going to be set for next year. So there's not going to be any ability for the Republican House to do anything about the funding of these groups until the year after next.
Yeah, that's why this omnibus is so ridiculous. The idea that the cavalry is coming over the hill, we're going to have a majority in the House of Representatives, for goodness sake. Why wouldn't you do a CR and just kick the funding into next year when we could begin to clamp down on some of this instead of making us wait a year? That's why this omnibus is so darn wrong, and we shouldn't be passing it. I'm not going to vote for it, but I wish the Senate wouldn't bring it up and would just give us a CR into February of next year.
Exactly. Jim Jordan, great to see you. Stay with us. We've got a lot more to talk to you about tonight.